Hey Lobos, Ben Johnson here with a solution for those students that just won't turn on their webcams as much as we'd like them to. Some won't and some can't for different reasons. With PearDeck, at least you can tell if students are participating, engaged, following along with you. I use it with all of my Lobo 101 presentations and I find it really helpful. So if you haven't started using PearDeck yet, I'd love to have you start, and I'm going to teach you how to do that today. First of all, go ahead and get your Pro account just by Googling PSD EdTech. That'll bring up a list of results. Click on that first result, and then in the upper left hand corner you can upgrade to the Pro account here. And what you do is type in your name, school, and then you choose PearDeck here in the list and you submit that, and then you're instantly given that upgrade to the Pro account. I'm just going to go ahead and close this now. Now once you've got the Pro account, the next step is to go into your Google Drive and open up a Google presentation. It can be a presentation that you've made in the past. It can be a presentation that you've uploaded from PowerPoint. It can be a brand new presentation that you make from scratch. It can be a presentation a colleague has shared with you that you make a copy of. It can be an old smartboard file that you've saved as a PowerPoint and then uploaded into your Google Drive. Bottom line is you want to get a Google presentation. That's really the easiest way to make this work. Next, you need to make sure that you have PearDeck on your toolbar. To do that, you go to your add-ons and you get add-ons. And you can then search for PearDeck here in the search bar and make sure that that's installed on your toolbar. You should see it on your toolbar here. For some reason that you don't, you can just go ahead and open it through the add-ons menu here. But I'll just go ahead and launch mine now. Okay, once you do that, on the right hand side you're going to see a task pane, and now you're ready to start adding your questions. There's a library of questions that you can add for different subjects here. I encourage you to look at that, but for the sake of time today I'm just going to show you how to manually add questions to your slides. One technique that I like to use is asking the question with a call out. So I'll just go ahead and do insert shape and I'll do call out, and there's different shapes here. And that just gives me a place where I can pose the question. With PearDeck you can pose the question right on the slide, or you can read it out loud to the students in a few minutes when you present to them. So I'm just going to ask, did you read chapter 1? And that's going to be a text question. And I'll just go ahead and add that. Well, in fact, I'm going to have it be a multiple choice question so that I can just get some quick data from my students. So I'll just do yes, no, and then some of it. And by adding this question, of course, I force them to engage with the slide, and then I'll get a nice tally of how many students have read it, not, and how many, some of them have read it. And then I can see which students haven't. So that'll be helpful. Then I can just go throughout their presentation, and again using this trick, insert, shape, call out, I can quickly add my questions without having to retype anything on the slide. However, you could if you wanted to. So this one I just want them to circle the author in red and the genre in green, and that is going to be a drawing question. Alright, and you can see the banner that PearDeck puts there just to remind you that you've done something. And I can add as many questions as I want. Again, I could retype the question here, add a whole new slide, but for the sake of time, I'll often just do these callouts. I find that I can usually put them on the slide and reshape them in a way that will allow me to pose that question without covering up anything that the students need to see. This one is going to be a draggable question, and I want them to use a green thumbs up for their favorite character, so I'll change that to a thumbs up and I'll make it green. And then I'll add another one that's going to be a thumbs down, and it'll be red for their least favorite character. And I could add as many as you want, and hopefully you can see the different kinds of question types that you can add and you're getting some ideas. And then finally I'll just ask an open-ended question on this slide, again using that little trick that I use with the callouts. And there's lots of different ways that you can pose the questions, even just out loud to the students as you're going through the presentation. You don't even have to add questions to these slides necessarily. You can just do it off the cuff, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Okay, and that's going to be an open-ended question. And you'll get to see which students answer these questions and haven't answered them, and then you can give students a quick 3, 2, 1 countdown to get their response in. And then you can ultimately give them a participation score. All right, so once you're happy with the questions you've added to your PearDeck, fast forward, it's now tomorrow, you're ready to give this presentation. You would just open the Google presentation back up like I've got here, launch that PearDeck menu again over here on the right. Then I always click on the hamburger here and I make sure that students are required to log in. I just make sure that that button is checked so that I can give them a participation score, and then I can see which students haven't yet responded and just remind them in the Google Meet to go ahead and respond. Once I've got that, I'm ready to start the lesson. It's going to bring up a few questions. First, instructor paste or student paste. If you're doing this synchronously in your Google Meet, you'll want to do instructor paste. For students who are absent, you can deploy another copy once you're finished that's student paste. But I'm going to do instructor paste here, and it's going to do a few things that will be important for you to see. The first one is, how do you give this to the students? Okay, so it'll bring up this little dialog box with a few options. And I'm going to say got it on this one. And then what you want to do is just go ahead and copy this class code. So I'm just going to copy that. And what you'll do in the chat is just tell the students to go to joinpd.com and then paste in that join code. And I usually will say that out loud in the Google Meet, plus I'll post it in the chat. And so what you'll do with your students at this point, at least the way I like to arrange my screen, is I'll take this little, what's called the dashboard, and I'll bump it against the side of my screen, and then I'll choose the presentation that I want to show in the second half of the screen. And then on a second screen, I'll leave the Google Meet open so that I can actually be looking at the students and watching the chat there. So this works best if you can have two screens. One screen you'll have set up here with the PearDeck dashboard, and then the actual presentation that you're delivering, just so that you can see it clearly while you're giving it to students. And then finally, in that third window, or on your second screen, you'll have the Google Meet open that students have joined. And remember, you're not going to share your screen here, which is a little different than maybe what you're used to. Instead, in that chat, you're going to paste this join code, and you'll just tell the students to go to joinpd.com and then paste in that join code, and you can put that all in the chat. Plus, you can tell students that information out loud as well. And you could actually put that in your Google Classroom too as a backup. But the students don't actually see you sharing your desktop. They actually have this PearDeck open on their own device, and in fact, they don't even need to have that Google Meet. They can have it minimized on their computer because they won't need to be viewing that, because they'll have the presentation through PearDeck opened live on their device. Okay, so now that you've got that, as students are coming in, you'll see that, and I'll just go ahead and come in as a student here so that you can see that, how that works. I'll pretend to be a student. So remember, your students would go to that joinpd.com, and it's going to ask them for that code, and you've put all of this in the chat. And so this is what the students will see. They can put what kind of mood they're in, so you'll see that on each question, so you can tell if they're having a good day or not. So I'll just go ahead and say, hey, I'm having a good day. The teacher will know that. And then this is what the student sees on their screen, and they're able to answer that question. And so I'll say yes. And just to see what the teacher is seeing, I'll drag this out of the way. So the teacher can see that one student is in the PearDeck. And by the way, I will wait if I see that I've got 30 students on the call in my Google Meet, and I only see 15 students listed here in my PearDeck. I will tell the students, hey, I only see 15 of you guys in the PearDeck. Need you guys to get joined up here. And then I can see when I've got all 30 students in that PearDeck, and that's when I'll start. And you can see I can mouse over this and see that I've responded. Now what's nice is down below here you'll see a list of students who've not yet responded, and so I'll go ahead and usually out loud say, hey, Tony, Becky, Amber, I can see you haven't answered this question. Can you go ahead and get in on this? And usually you'll see those names start to drop off the list because they hear that prompt from you. And then I'll usually do a, okay guys, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm going to go on to the next slide. So I'll just demo that. So 3, 2, 1, I'm going to move on to the next slide, and that gives everybody a chance to get in. So this one I'm asking the students to circle the author in red and circle the genre in green. Again, I'll just pull over my student screen here and author in red, and so the students can just go ahead and genre in green on their device. They'll be able to do this now, and I'll drag it off. And again, you can see I'll have all my students here. I can see who's responded, and down here on the bottom I'll be able to tell who hasn't, and I can just call on those students out loud. Now if a student does anything particularly interesting, I might just go ahead and ask them if they would be able to share their answer with their classmates. So it's a nice way to also be able to call on students that maybe have some unique original ideas. And again, I could just say, okay guys, we're moving to the next slide. If you want to get the participation points, 3, 2, 1, and next slide. This one is a drag question, so I'll drag that student screen back here so you can see. So I want them to put their favorite character and their least favorite character here. And I didn't do a very good job with these callouts. They're covering up a bit of the slide, but for the sake of demo, and again, I'll just move that out of the way. This one does an overlaid by default, so you can see all of the student responses at once, which is helpful sometimes, or you can look at them in a grid layout, or you can look at them one by one. And again, you just see which students haven't yet responded, and you can just remind those students. I'll usually again just say, hey, Matt, Angela, get clicked in on this slide, and a 3, 2, 1, next slide. And then this is an open-ended slide, and it's just going to give the student a box here where they can type in their response, and they can add another response if they'd like to. Drag that out of the way. And you're, as the teacher, going to be able to see all those open-ended responses. And this is typically where I would call on a student that said something especially creative or unique to share that answer with their classmates. And they can unmute and then just go ahead and talk to their classmates. And again, those students that haven't responded, you'll see those down here at the bottom, and you can ask them to participate. Now, what if you didn't have time to put the questions on the slides like I've done here? Or maybe at some point you just want to prompt them for a new question. At any point during that presentation, you can give them a new prompt just by clicking on that new prompt. And there's some pre-made ones here that you can use. And I'm just going to go ahead and forward. And if I wanted to ask them a multiple choice question, I could do that right here, or I could ask them to write a response. So these questions I can just add on the fly. So I might want them to draw a picture. So I might say, hey students, draw a picture of your favorite character. And then the students will be able to draw a picture of their favorite character. And I'll just do a really quick awful drawing here. But you'll get the point here, and the teacher will be able to see that. So you can add these questions off the cuff just by using this new prompt. Okay, so that's a really helpful feature if you don't have time to add those questions in your slide. Now when you're finished, you're just going to go ahead and hit end. You can give it a name, so I'll just call it P1, and I'll save that session. It's going to print takeaways for these students, which might be helpful for them to review, and you can just share that right to your Google Classroom, and they'll give them a link with their responses. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and return to the home page. Now, to get the results, you're just going to go back to PearDeck. This is one way to get the results. Go to your teacher login, And then you're going to be able to go to the sessions here, and you can see the session that I just did, and you'll be able to click on that and export the spreadsheet. And that's it.